All right, let's do this. I have a landscape kind of thing that I sketched out here. And this is where it's going to start. And we'll see where it ends up because this is just the start, but you gotta start somewhere. I've pre-mixed a few paints and there's a few different ways to do this. And I've been encouraged to start with the darks first. When you do oil painting, put down the dark colors and then kind of put down everything else so that you know what you're working with. And I want to get to that, but I'm still not quite there. So I'm going to start with the sky, the furthest background, and work my way forward. And maybe as I get better, I'll get better at doing the dark trees first and the foreground and then the background and the midground and kind of figure it out. But I am still learning and no guarantees of greatness here. So here we go. I've been painting for about 3 years now. And I was doing it in a class, a really good class, but I recently moved and I lost my class. And it was really cool to have all this creative energy in the room whenever we were in the class, painting in the class, even just doing exercises. And I lost that. So I was kind of hoping that I could do a video like this and then maybe get other people painting, and it'd be cool if I thought that while watching my videos, people would start painting too and we'd get that creative energy going. I don't know, I just wanted to paint and feel like there were other people out there maybe doing something like that too. I'm just going to put down a whole bunch of blue to start with and then put in some gradients because the skies, it's going to be lighter color around the horizon and darker up top. And usually I like to put my put a sun in the sky pretty low, and I have a thing where I kind of elongate it, and it's kind of become a trademark. No, okay. I haven't been painting long enough to be talking trademarks or style or anything, but it's become part of what I do. But I don't want to keep doing the same thing. I want to keep doing different things. So I am going to aim for blue sky that has soft light, and soft light meaning no direct source of light like the sun. And put in some patchy white clouds, which have traditionally been pretty difficult for me. Long stretched out clouds is one thing, but patchy clouds, because see, patchy poofy clouds, they have shading because the more moisture you have in a cloud, the more shade there is, or the darker it is on the far side of the cloud, and that's harder to do. Okay, I'm already getting fixated on one area. See, the thing about the initial start is to get a start going so that I have something to work with. I'm using paint that's fairly thin right now. That's thinned with turpentine. Good old turpentine. I also have oil, but that's for later. Don't put in oils until much later in the game. I mean, not oils, but oil, the actual oil. Frankly, I tend to forget to use the oil. Okay, I need more blue. I didn't plan that well enough. And I'm putting a little bit of red into that blue to dull it down a little bit so it's not like this poof blue, you know. Not so much that it becomes purple, but enough that it becomes duller. So when I first started oil painting, I had been doing a lot of acrylic just these fun classes. My library back where I used to live would have this adult painting class, and it was really cool. The community got together, and there was a teacher. It was instructor led, and we all got like there were 5 or 6 paints, our little container, and she told us, okay, first take this brush and do this, and then you take this brush and do this other thing. And so it was really step by step, or like a paint by number that was led by an instructor. So it really wasn't about creation, but it was fun. And we had 2 teachers that would recur, but once in a while there would be a guest teacher. And then one time we had this one teacher who turns out she loves teaching, has been teaching art for many years, has lived art for many years, and has taught everything from little kids to university. And so she really knew what she was talking about. And throughout this, which was still a paint by number exercise because that's what the library brought her in for, throughout that, she gave us Art 101, Art 201, and Art 301 mixed in. And I started to get really excited about taking that further. I had been doing all these acrylic exercises. I need more white. I think I use more white than anything else. Throughout all these fun exercises of the library paintings, I thought, I really want to do more and actually create. So at the end of that class, I approached her. I said, hey, so if I wanted to start oil painting, what's a simple way to start? And she said, well, basically get turpentine, red, yellow, blue, black, and white, a couple of brushes. Okay. And the thing with red, yellow, and blue is that you can mix any color out of that. And it's also an inexpensive way to start. So I got me a red, yellow, and blue. That's the color I'm looking for. Okay. I had a little bit too much red in there. I don't want purple. Oh, just purple-ish, but too much. But I already had brushes, and I already had some canvas boards and stuff like that. So I got started, and I started to like it immediately. It's a completely different world. Oh yeah, that's a much better color. Completely different world than the acrylic. And the biggest difference, of course, is that oils take much, much longer to dry. And it's whatever works for you. I have a friend who paints, and she loves acrylic, and in her words, she says she's impulsive and impatient, so acrylic works for her. I'm like, that's awesome. She found her thing. She found her medium. And when I started with with the oils, I thought, yeah, you know what? This is what works for me, because I love that tomorrow I can come back and this is still going to be totally wet, because my creative energy only lasts 2 hours, maybe 3, 4 hours at the most, but I'm not going to finish a painting. But I could, in the midst of 24 hours passing or a week passing, need to make some change. And now a week, things are already going to be more dry, but I can sit here and work on this guy for hours and it's still going to be pretty wet and pliable, where in acrylics, it dries within a few minutes. So this has been really cool. All right, right now I'm just trying to cover the sky just so I can get something down, so I have something to manipulate. See, if I was going dark stuff in foreground first, I'd have to do my trees and then put the sky in afterwards, and that's so hard. Oh man, I'll get there one day. Because the dark of the tree is what's going to define the value system here, the value being darks and lights, not value as in money or anything like that. And the value is very important. It's more important to get the value right than to get the color right, is what I've learned, is what I've been taught, and it is, I have found it to be true. Because if the values don't match or aren't realistic, then the whole thing just falls apart. My instructor said that you should be able to take a black and white photocopy of the painting and it still looks like a scene. So you shouldn't have to depend on the color to delineate everything. Okay, I'm making a slightly darker sky. The sky, if you look at up to the horizon, it's darker up here and lighter down here, which also works for me because then the fairly light colored mountains are going to be easier to distinguish. So yeah, anyway, in the midst of trying to start cheaply and only with a couple of colors, I had to learn to mix my colors, and that turned out to be a really good experience. Oh, that's a pretty color. I like that. I like that. Now, since then, I've acquired a couple other colors. Some of them were gifted to me, but it was a really good place to start because I know I can mix things. Like if I have red, yellow, and blue, and if I need a sand color, I can make a sand color out of that with a lot of white, of course, but everything is just a mix of red, yellow, and blue. And being forced to do that, like I do a lot of forest scenes and whatnot, and you end up needing a whole lot of different greens for that. Well, I make those out of red, yellow, and blue, and black and white. Okay, I need to fade this in a little bit. I want to get the sky kind of dialed in because once I start doing the mountains and the trees, I really do not want to have to mess with it. Anyone feel like painting it? This is not a perfectly edited, here's a how-to video. This is me learning. Although I gotta say, I've learned a lot. One of these days, I've moved recently, so a lot of things are still packed up, but maybe one of these days I'll pull out the first oil that I did, and oh boy, it was not good. Going into it, like obviously I knew that oil takes a long time to dry. That's the whole point of going oil for me. But still, I approached my first oil painting as an acrylic. And in acrylic, you put down your background, it's dry in 30 seconds. Okay, I'm exaggerating, but it's dry very quickly. And then you can put down your next layer and your next layer, and you actually paint with the intention of putting down your next layer on top of something. So if I have a white house, for example, or a light colored house, I can just paint the whole house, wait a few minutes for it to dry, and then I can add in the windows and doors and roof or whatever on top of that light color, because I planned it that way. And so you think in terms of things drying fast, and you plan to use that. So you have to change your thinking when you go to oil, because you can't do that. It was also interesting in some of the classes I had, we did some exercises in watercolor. I'm like, well, okay, why not? The materials were provided, so why not do it for the experience? And that is a whole nother experience as well, because in watercolor, you can't paint in white. The white is the white that you get from the paper. So you have to think in terms of adding layers on, but leaving the lightest colors there with the least amount of paint. So you layer completely differently when you do watercolor. So it's a whole different thinking mechanism. And even though it was kind of fun, I loved what I could do with there was a lot of water in the brush. I could just kind of, do these kind of shapes and everything. And the brush glided across the paper. It was really cool. I decided against doing more of that because I didn't want to, I'm not cemented in this technique yet, so I didn't want to affect my learning in oil, because that's where I want to focus. But yeah, whole different ball game. So my first painting, I knew that it would do it, and I still did it. I still did a whole bunch of wrong things, and then I ended up with mud. It's called mud when you have too much paint on, and I couldn't layer it, and it was just really bad. I don't think I ever finished it. Okay, now I made it too dark down here. Another thing that's cool about oil is that if you don't like the paint, you can just wipe it off. Oh, that's, ooh, ah. That's actually a good color right there. I need to just very lightly drag something across that. Need some terpy terp. Blend this in. Blendy blend. I'm gonna have fewer clouds down here. Yeah, clouds scare me, but my gosh, when you get your clouds right, it looks so pretty. I had a cloud exercise once, and I did okay, but I really need to do more of that. They came out okay. Okay, light color. Blendy blend. Blendy, blendy, blendy. All right. Okay. Of course, I can always come back and touch this up a bit more, but it's nice knowing I can put the mountains on top. Okay, that's not bad. Make the top a little bit darker. Ooh. Put a little bit of texture in here. Not too blended. Hey, too much blue, too much blue. Because if it's too blended, then why? You know, you want to see some brush strokes. See, that's the thing about blending too, is if everything is so perfect that it looks like a photograph, like what's the point? If you want a photograph, just go take a photograph. If you see the brush strokes more, it's a little unnatural because it feels like, oh, well, it's not straight, it's not perfect gradient. Take it out. But no, it looks it's more of me is in this, if you can see my brush strokes, and that's part of the exercise. This is my painting. I remember an introduction to art class I took once a million years ago in college, where the teacher told us that we studied that before photography was discovered or invented. That's a invention. That's not a discovery. That's an invention. Okay. Before photography was invented, artists would typically try to get things perfect, so it was kind of like a photograph. The only way you could have a picture of your family displayed in your home would be if you hired an artist. So that was the intent, is to be as realistic as possible. But after photography became a thing, art started becoming more and more abstract, because why not just take a picture if you want a photo of your family, you know? Okay, all right, that's good. I thought, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Not that there wasn't abstract painting before photography, of course, but just generally speaking. All right. Now I'm starting to make it too dark, so gotta back off. All right, I gotta back away a couple feet and, oh, hold on. Sometimes you gotta step back and look at it more. Yeah, this too. I just wiped this off. I need to, 1 second. Oh yeah, that's not bad. That's pretty decent. Still gonna add in some poofy white clouds in there at some point, but that'll come later. All right, just a little bit more light color here. Okay, all right, cool with that. So one of the colors that was given to me is called Viridian, and I'm actually really grateful for it. I was trying to stay a purist and just have it be as a bragging point. Well, I only use red, yellow, and blue, you know, just special. But gosh, the Viridian comes in handy. So. The Viridian is kind of a little, like a greenish, bluish, tealish, turquoise-ish color, and I like to use it for mountains because you've got blue sky and then you've got bluish mountains, and you have to mix your blues differently enough so that they don't fade into each other. So the Viridian makes that a lot easier for me. I gotta look at the sky one more time. So right now all you see is the sky. So it takes a lot of my attention, but once some of this other stuff starts to happen, the sky is just kind of there. But I still want it to look pretty. And now is my opportunity to get it kind of dialed in. Let's get this. Okay, oh, it's a little slightly different there. That's good. Aha, okay, all right. Yeah, sometimes just gotta force it by doing something different there. All right. All right, just slight amount of texture here, but not so much that I make it, ooh, did I just say not so much? Not so much. Maybe I'll leave that. It looks like a little speck of something. Okay. Just a little bit and then a little bit more. Tone it down. Okay. One more time. All right, that's cool. I am gonna add in some poofy white clouds into this at some point. So this is a good base for that. It's got some texture, and I'm ready to start working on some of these mountains. Okay. And it looks like this area is lighter than this area, so I'm gonna decide that my source of light is out here and do the shading from here on out that way. You gotta have a source of light. Usually I'll put my source of light somewhere smack in the painting, and so it's pretty obvious, but right now I didn't paint a sun, so I need to decide. Ideally, you decide these things in your sketch, but I've never been that great about my sketch. My sketch is generally the idea that the idea I want to pursue, but not exactly how I'm going to execute it. I don't really know that until I'm actually working. All right. Oh, that's out of frame, but this is a little piece of towel where I wipe my brush, and I'm cheap. I use all four sides before I throw it out. Okay. All right, so next step is gonna be these mountains. So I did, before I started recording, I did pre-mix some colors because I figure you probably didn't wanna spend the first half hour watching me turn this way, mixing my colors. I think I'm gonna need more of this. I already do plenty of color mixing doing this, but that's just how it has to be. Color mixing is part of the fun. Maybe eventually I'll end up like with one camera on me so I can talk to you, and then another camera on this or on that, or I don't know. Right now this seems to be working-ish, maybe. So let's see how it goes. Okay, so my son's over here, and all right. Okay. I need to have a little bit of a delineation between the sky and the mountain, but not a whole lot, because you don't see the details of things that are that far away. It just needs to hint that it's there. Got a little bit too much turpentine on my brush. Just take it out from the base of the brush. All right. Oh, why is that dark? This needs to be more jagged. Okay, yeah, it's a little darker. I accidentally went into the neighboring color there. Oh, that's okay, I need more contrast there. All right. Before I make more mistakes, I'm going to take this out and take this out so it's not in my way. A lot of oil, my gosh. I can just do that. And I'm going to leave this brush as is. Now, let's see. Yeah, I'll use this brush. The sky needs to be a little darker because I need a little bit more contrast. So yeah, it's pretty light back there, but I think I need it a little bit darker, so. Let's see. Let's see what kind of damage I can do here. See, these are not going to be polished videos. This is me learning. But you go through this phase, and everybody goes through it. Nobody's a great painter starting out. You learn, and I watch some amazing ones on YouTube, and a lot of them are really, really good, but everybody got there somehow. And of course, not everybody's growth process is the same, and some get there much faster than others because some are amazingly talented. But this is my process. Maybe, just maybe, seeing me struggle will inspire you to paint too, because that would be really awesome. In any medium, doesn't have to be oils, or just do something artsy. You know, I think it just really feels good to do something artsy, and I think everybody does that to some extent. And it's not always like visual art. It could be like cooking or music or all these different ways. But as humans, we have this intrinsic art quality within us, and it needs an outlet. Personally, I feel better when I let it out somehow. Okay, I'm just putting a little texture here, trying to not mess up the mountain I already started. Blendy blend, but not too blendy. Not too bad. I almost said bendy again. Who remembers Nurse Bendy? That was fun. Okay. So now the top looks a bit different from the bottom. Let's see how it looks from 6 feet away. It's actually not bad. It's okay to see more texture up top because this part of the sky is closer than this part of the sky. So you will see more detail up top. Plus there's going to be clouds, and that'll be tricky too. The clouds up here are going to have to be closer than the clouds over here. So in the distance, they're going to be more wispy. I have never done that before. So I'm curious to see how well I do at that. All right, I think I did enough to make this darker. I really should blend this a little bit better. Oops, my white. Ah, okay. White wisps. Maybe some white wisps coming off the mountaintops, actually. That's not a bad thing. Like it's a storm. I've watched these specials on Everest, and when the winds really kick up and go over the top of the mountain, it just goes phew. It just goes like, makes this whoosh right just on the other side of the mountain. Maybe it does that here. Indicates that it's really, really windy. Actually, if it's super windy, I wouldn't have puffy clouds. Puffy clouds means there's vertical movement in the air. And if there's vertical movement in the air, you don't have these wisps going. So, oops. But let's see if I can make it work, because I want to do puffy clouds. I've never done puffy clouds in a landscape painting. And I really want to do that. Okay. There's some harsh lines here. You know, I really need to stop torturing the sky. Get back to my mountains. Because the line where the sky touches the mountains, that's good. Everything else I can touch up later. It's a trap to get too detailed, too early on. I'll put that in there. And spending all this time on one part of the painting, and then, you know, you got to plan the whole thing at the same time. Or at least in stages, because you can't finish one area and then work on something else, and then it doesn't work together. And you wasted all that time. All right, so it's, okay, that's a little bit more visible. So I'm doing the lightest part first, because that's my source of light, and make this a little jagged. There's going to be this line here is going to be a forest, so I'm not going to go too deep in that. I like forests and mountains. I grew up playing in forests and climbing trees and all that kind of good stuff. That'll always be part of my identity, is being a forest girl. So I like painting forests, but I do need to paint other things too. But I haven't painted, because I just moved, so for about a year, I haven't really been doing anything artsy. I just didn't have the energy for it. So I'm starting with what's familiar. But then I'm gonna expand into new things. Gotta keep learning. Kind of like if I haven't played Skyrim in a really long time, and I'm at the character creation, I go straight to Wood Elf, because that's me, I'm a Wood Elf. But if I am starting a new game just to start a new game, I'll choose a different race. Okay, that's pretty good. trying to put in the light colors for the, is that even visible? Yeah, it's not super visible. I'm gonna bring this up. So it's gonna get darker, but I'm putting in these light areas for where the light source, I face the light source, and now I'm gonna put in the shadier areas that are a little bit darker, but I wanted to start with the lights. Maybe I'll do that. That'll be my solution. Once in a while, I'll bring the painting up to the camera so you can see it better. Of course, I can come back and do more of these light areas later, but I like to establish where those breaks are. Okay. So now I'm going to go into the darker, which I also pre-mixed. Oh boy, this is where it gets tricky. Scary. That's the back side. Okay. This is where the mountainside gets its shape. All right. Okay. It's kind of hard to see, but it's kind of hard to see for me too, because the whole point is for this part to be the background. So you don't want a whole lot of contrast. Yeah, that's actually pretty good. The more contrasty stuff is going to happen when you come up here. I gotta come in here. I can perfect this more with a smaller brush later, but if I pick a smaller brush right now, I'm gonna fall into the trap, and that's not good. Let's see. That's a little valley. And then another ridge line. I think that's a little too dark. A little bit too dark. Well, maybe not. I should have put some more blue in there. Let me do that. Can't have too much green because green means you're seeing yellow, and you don't really see yellow for too much of a distance. Okay. And now a little bit of an in-between color to bring everything together. Kind of fade it into the sky a little bit too. Soft edges. Soft edges is one of the things that make things feel more like they're in the distance. Yeah, I'm just checking to see if it's visible. It's semi-visible. Some of this is going to get covered because there's a tree here. I think I'm going to bring the tip of this tree up just above the horizon, because that sort of thing helps to create a little depth. If something is obviously in front of something else, it makes it feel more, the depth of field is going to be more, and it draws you into the painting more. See, there's so much to know when it comes to painting, not just oil painting, just any kind of painting, because you can just sit down and have fun, and some people just kind of intuitively know these things, but other people have to learn them. And there's things like, how does the human eye pick up color? How do we perceive reds and yellows and blues at these various distances? And how do we differentiate between things that are close up and further away? Like there's science to it because our eyes have a certain physiology, and you need to understand that to make your paintings look like they have depth. Unless you just kind of naturally understand it. I mean, there's amazing artists that just kind of seem to know. I'd love to know what their thought process is. People that find painting easy. But for people like me, I have to learn that stuff. Like I know that things in the distance are bluer, but understanding stuff about reds and yellows and wavelengths a little bit, that helps a lot. But then there's also the edges. Edges are not as sharp. Like this edge right here, it's too sharp. I'm gonna have to loosen that up a little later. And this is getting too dark. Oh, okay, that's actually kind of cool. A little white face right there. Oh, face of the mountain. Too much paint on the brush. I get to a point where there's just too much color and I have to let it, if I like it and I don't want to wipe it off, I need to let it sit for a bit. Put another little bump right there. It's lit up by the source of light. Oh my gosh, I ran out of white again. All right. I use more white than anything else, but the pigments are so rich that just needs to happen. Uh-oh, I hear a kitty at the door. I have some kitties here, but they're not allowed in the studio because turpentine is very bad for kitties. And all these, even the oils, I think, are toxic. Okay. I can do more to these mountains later. I just wanted to get something down. Oh yeah, that's right. There's this down here. This can kind of fade together. Yeah, there's going to be a tree line here that'll kind of jut out into the mountains. This can be darker again because it's in the shade now. It's a little in between. Kind of in between. And the part that I've always struggled with is bringing the background into the foreground. So right now, obviously working on something that's very far in the background. And then when I start working on these trees, they're going to be dark and vertical and big and bold. And that's going to be obviously foreground. But making the transition from foreground to background, oh boy, that's challenging. It's funny what different people struggle with too. Whenever I was in my class, is some people just breeze through some things. I had another student there was this other student in the class that she had no problem with that transition at all. And I was marveled at how she did it. I do have some other areas though that are easy for me, like composition. I just kind of sketch it out and I just kind of know I have the eye for it. So I'm not complaining because I might not have one thing but have something else. And having composition be easy, that's a good thing, because a bad composition can make a painting just not work. And for me, that's just kind of easy, and I'm very happy about that. Let's make a little white up here. I think I'm gonna play with those mountains a little bit more later, but I got a good start, so at least I know what they're gonna look like. Okay, now it's time to start working on the forest. There's going to be a line of forest right here. And I think this should just be a green field. What I want to do is have a little hillside here. A little bit of a hillside here with grassy areas and some flowers, and bring some of the viridian into the flowers. That way there's cohesiveness in the painting. But I don't quite know. I don't have a plan for this area yet. I'll figure it out as I go. So for now, let's see, get this brush out of the way. And get that cleaned off. So I need to mix, I need more blue. I actually use quite a bit of blue. Actually, I think I already bought another blue, because this is gonna go pretty quick. When you do landscapes, you do need a lot of blue. It's funny though, because the blue is so much richer than the yellow. When I make green, I use a whole lot of yellow and just a little bit of blue. And of course some red. Okay, let's see. Okay, so I'm gonna use a medium kind of green because it is still far in the distance. So it's gonna have some blue to it. I think I'm just gonna use this blue that I already have. Bring it over here. Put a little bit of the viridian in there just for cohesiveness. No, I need more than this. Let's see. Bring in some yellow. Let's see how this goes. That's a pretty green, but way too bright. So you can dull down a green by putting in a little red. The challenge I always have is reds. You only see reds up front. You don't really see a lot of reds in the background because of the wavelength thing. And putting in red into this green, well, doesn't that make it warmer? And if it's warmer, it loses the appearance of being background. So how do you do this? So finding just the right color. This I think needs to be more blue. Finding just the right color that's dull but not too warm for a background forest like this. That's a challenge. Okay, that's getting there. It's still too green. It needs more blue. Of course, I could dull it down with a white, put in more blue for that distance thing, but then make it duller with the white, which is probably what, well, this already has a lot of white in it. All right, let's see, more blue. Oh, I think this is starting to look pretty good. Let's see. Okay, too dark, but we're getting there. How's this? Okay, wow. That's amazing. Out here it looks so good, but when I put it up on the paper, it still looks too dark. Sometimes I'll put a like a 50% grade, sometimes using that burnt sienna before I start, because everything looks darker in comparison to a white paper. But if you start out with something that's like a 50% value, then you can gauge the value of your paint much better. Okay, I think that's good. Of course, now it's more green. I'll bring some more blue in this. More blue. I got tired of cleaning my palette, so I put down some parchment paper on my palette. It's sort of working. Ah, okay, there's my color. There's my color. Okay. Let's go with this. All right, this is clean. Okay, so let's see. Forest is gonna be, I need to decide how many trees I'm gonna have here. Do I wanna have a bunch of trees or just 2 trees? Tree, no, I think I originally had a tree sketched in here. So tree, tall tree, medium tree, forest, but I do wanna have a little bit of that forest showing right here. Where's my, let's see, tree here. So, okay, this area here is gonna have to be foresty. Maybe a little bit over here too. And then over here. Okay. I think I know what I'm doing. Let's see how it goes. Okay. All right. I'm just gonna put in the color for now, and then I'll worry about the shape in a little while. A little bit of turpentine. Okay, it's not a bad color. Too much turpentine on the brush. Okay, just in case I need it, I'm gonna put those in there. Okay, so now that I've got that covered, I wanna make it spiky so it looks like it's a forest, but it's in the background, so not a whole lot. All right. You know what, I'm gonna use a smaller brush. It's a little early to be using a small brush, but I kind of need to. Oh, that's too small. Let's go with this. There we go. Yep. Okay, all right. I don't hate this. Just little hints of trees. Ooh, I like that. Oh, I really like that. I love it when things just work out. Because most of the time, it's an oops, let me wipe that down, try it again. But I have to say that the more I do this, the more I have these, ooh, that's working kind of moments. It's like that with cooking too. I like cooking. When I first started cooking, I really didn't want to use a recipe. I was dead set against recipes because my thinking was, well, if I'm cooking off of a recipe, it's somebody else's creativity. I'm just assembling it. And it just didn't feel genuine, but I didn't really get good at cooking until I started to use recipes because I started to realize there are people that are way smarter than me in the kitchen. They've figured out a lot of stuff. And by using their recipe, I'm learning so much. And then ultimately what happened is, oh, that line is way too straight. Ultimately what happened is I started to use their recipes but modify them and put in my own preferred ingredients or preferred techniques, and next thing I know, I'm doing my own thing, making things from scratch, but I learned from the recipes. So yeah, you learn by doing. Okay, that's a little bit broken up. Straight lines are bad. Yeah, that was just way too straight. I'll try to bump it up a little bit over here too. That's a composition thing. If you look at a nature scene, I mean, you might see a straight horizon if it's a lot of things will have a straight horizon, but if you're looking at a forest that just goes, you know, that ain't good. That's no good. Real forests don't do that. Might look fine in a photo, but you'd look at it in a painting and it doesn't look right. Okay. right, just little hints here. A little bit of a hint. Okay. I'm gonna step away and take a look. Okay, all right. I'm good with that. I'm not crazy about the sky. I'm gonna have to work the sky later, but that's not right now. I'm not in the sky mood anymore. I have no idea how long this is gonna take. I've done like a 2-hour session where I completed a whole painting because I really had the creative juices going. And then I've had paintings that I worked on for days and days, and it took many, many hours. And it's done when you feel it, when it's done. So this one might take, well, it's definitely not going to be a couple hours because I think we're probably already approaching that, but it's going to be a while. I'm also not going to do one painting per video because that would be insanely long. So I am going to take a break here pretty soon and going to end the video there and then break it up into the next session because I do need to have a bite to eat. Hunger kills creativity for me. All right, I think that's pretty good. I got the line. I got the straight line figured out. Over here, let's do this here. I'll get this line done and then I'll take a break. Ooh, that's pretty. That's probably overkill over here because that's going to be covered by the tree, but I just want to have that just in case because I do not want to find myself in a position where I have to put in little bits of background behind my tree. Oh God, that's no good, no good. That's not bad though. I got sky, mountains, and forests started in my first session, so that's decent. Oh, here we go. Okay. Look at it from the distance again. Okay, that was a good call. I kind of put that little bump there at the end. And I'm gonna put in highlights and lowlights too, because right now it's just all one color, but with the light source being off in this direction somewhere, I'm going to have to put in some shades on this side and some highlights on this side. So right now I'm just kind of putting down where I want the forest to live. But yeah, that'll be it for now. I'm gonna end this session. I'm gonna have a bite to eat, and the next session will be in the next video. So I hope this is fun. I hope you're thinking about painting because that would be really cool.